The battle shaping up over who will fill Justice Antonin Scalia's seat on the Supreme Court is different than those in the past. Usually, Democrats and Republicans are fighting over a nominee's views and qualifications. In this case, they're fighting over whether there should be a nominee at all. And with the prospect of a divided court, many are asking, how will the court function? Joining me now for more is Tessa Dysart. She's a professor of constitutional law at Regent University. While Republicans are saying that the president shouldn't nominate anyone since this is his last year in office, is there any historic precedent to support that point of view?
There is historic precedent on not confirming a nominee, but the Constitution sets out two duties. The president's duty is to nominate, and it's the Senate's duty to offer advice and consent. So there's precedent for the president to nominate someone, but there's also precedent for the Senate, when there's a divided government like we have now, to not confirm the president's particular nominee.
Well, with the 8 justices on the court, some decisions might be a 4-4 tie. When was the last time that happened?
We often have an 8-member court deciding decisions. Now, whether they split is certainly a different matter, but often a justice can be recused. There's been some cases this year that Justice Alito has been recused, and there's a case coming up challenging the University of Texas's affirmative action case or policy that Justice Kagan is recused on.
So what happens when there's a 4-4 tie?
That's a great question. So there's two things that could happen. First, the court could just split 4-4, and then the lower court decision, so the decision below, stands, it's affirmed. Or the court could decide to rehear the case when they have a full 9-member court. So it's likely that some combination of those two things will happen in this instance.
Talk about how Justice Scalia's death could affect some of the cases that are currently on the court's docket.
Well, as every year, there's some real hot-button issues coming before the court this year. One case where the court has already heard oral argument is the Friedrichs case, dealing with non-union members who are required to pay union dues. And that case, many thought, would split 5-4 for the individuals challenging the union dues, with Justice Scalia in the majority. That case is now likely to go 4-4, and the union, who won below, will win. There's the Texas affirmative action case, but because Justice Kagan is recused, I think that that policy could still be struck down. We also have challenges to President Obama's immigration policy. The Texas won below in that case, and challenges to Texas abortion regulations. Texas also won below in that case. So it's going to be really fascinating to watch and see what happens.
Indeed. Well, there's also the question of cases that Justice Scalia already voted on but weren't made public before he died. What's the problem there?
That's a big problem. And I've heard actually two things on this. There's been lots of questions about what happens to those cases. Some individuals think that we have to actually wait for a final decision, so his vote doesn't count until the decision is announced. A friend of mine who clerked for the Supreme Court said there could be some cases where Justice Scalia has voted on the final opinion, and his vote will still count in those cases. But if that does happen, it's just going to be a small number. So lots of changes for the court coming up.
Well, President Obama has vowed that he will nominate someone while he is still in office. What type of a justice do you suppose he will put forth?
I think he'll put forth a justice that would motivate his base and encourage different interest groups to stand behind the nominee. There's been some speculation that he'll appoint a centrist nominee, but I think those guesses are really in the eye of the beholder. Who's a centrist judge? It's all depends on who's making the judgment call.
Well, it absolutely is very fascinating. It's going to be very interesting to watch what happens in the days and months ahead. Tessa Dysart, thanks so much for being with us. Great to see you.
Thank you.